My wife and I had a marriage housekeeping conversation this weekend around shared responsibility. So that's who's responsible for what in the home and how do we equally distribute the labor, right? So I started the conversation by just clarifying to her like our agreement and our philosophy that when I go to work from 9 to 5, I make the money, and that's a contribution I have. We have 4 kids. She wakes up, she feeds all the kids, she homeschools them. One of them is 1, so she takes care of the baby. And there's a fair amount of meal planning and just general cleanup and pickup around the day surrounding that. So from 9 to 5, we're both equal. Taking care of the 4 kids and doing the stuff within those hours for her is equivalent to what I do at work and the stress I carry there that makes us the money, right? So if that's equal contribution, when I get home from 5 to 10, we're still on equal footing. So we both have to be putting in equal effort. It's not just effort, it's equal emotional responsibility of owning whatever that is. So we literally sat down. We actually have this deck of cards that divides up duties. And we put, okay, who's doing laundry, who's doing meal planning, who's doing bedtime routines and bathroom attached to that because you're in the bathroom with the kids, so you clean the bathroom, and who's sweeping the floor. And then we get into a greater conversation too about who makes a doctor's appointment, who buys the kids clothes, like who owns and does all these things. Like one of my responsibilities is midnight comfort. Like I sleep with the 1-year-old now because when he's with her, he wakes up countless times during the night and wants to nurse. So I sleep with him on the couch, but all our other kids are in the other rooms too. So I kind of do the nighttime interference. She does a lot of other stuff. So we kind of like chart out all of these things and agree who's going to be responsible for what and make sure that we both feel that we understand who's doing what, that we feel like it's a fair distribution of labor, that it caters to our strengths, and we have this firm structure that helps us navigate things, but it's also fluid enough that it accounts for the nuances of life. Like if I come home and she's had a really bad day and one of the kids is sick and whatever else has happened and she needs some help with her portion of it. Or if I had to stay late at work until 8 o'clock because we had something go wrong, which happens, she has to pick up slack for me. So there's a little bit of variance in there, and there's also time built in intentionally for self-care. But I have to make that for her, so I own that responsibility of making sure she has some time for herself, and she does the same for me. And then we have weekly conversations around it to check in and make sure that we're okay, that things aren't off kilter. And then from week to week, we can have adjustment conversations. Do you still feel it's fair? Are you getting tired of being the one that does dishes instead of doing laundry? Do you want to swap? And it's really a balancing act. It's really about communication. If you have an agreement going in, that is so helpful for a marriage. Because if you go in and you don't have a plan, someone will not know who's going to do it. And to be honest, it's usually the mom who thinks that all the homemaking falls onto her, and the dad just kind of helps out. And then she carries the emotional responsibility for that. Not always, but commonly that's what happens. She knows I do not have to worry about any of the groceries, any of the meal planning, or any of that this week. All I have to do is do the dishes. That frees her from carrying that mental load, and she can pour that emotion and that mental energy into something else and do it better, right? If you, as the man, think that breadwinning is equivalent to what your wife does, say you only have 1 kid and you think, I work 60 hours a week and we only have 1 child, so I really shouldn't have to do that much at home because your home life is not that hard. You just have 1 kid and you don't have to work. I'm not making any judgments on that. I'm saying that both of you better agree on it and support each other in it. If you're not on the same page and you've never talked about it, so many fights occur because of that. So much tension is held, that bitterness that you can't like name it, you can't put a finger on it, but it sits there like underneath the surface and it gets at you, and those problems start popping up in other ways and arguments, and you don't even know where they came from, but they persist in this like loneliness and negative energy over a marriage. So get on the same page, and that can mean some really hard conversations with a lot of conflict. Because if you're asking one parent who's tapped out to do something that they don't feel like they can do, that's hard for them. Or if you feel like you are doing equal and your partner doesn't feel like you are, or you don't have an appreciation, like for instance, the dad is working, if he doesn't appreciate the homemaking as an equal value to what he does at work, there's going to be tension. Those can be really hard conversations. That's why you have to have them. You have to agree upon them. Shared responsibility is what makes marriages work. Have an agreement on that. Have a vision for it. I would recommend that you start with the goal in mind. So that was another thing I did. I told my wife, I want you to feel loved and supported. I want you to know that I am carrying my load and that you are not on your own in the care of our home, which is more than 50% of the work. So like I said, we have 4 kids, and the care of the home and the kids is 24/7, and my work is only 40 to 50 hours a week. All right. I never want her to feel emotionally responsible for all of that, and I just kind of come in and help. That's not fair. That's patronizing to me as a man, because I want to create my home with my family. All right. So having those conversations, having a vision of how you want your marriage to look and work, how you want to support each other, and then getting into the nitty-gritty of what does that look like in all the little day-to-day tasks, right? And then how do we have some fluidity, some grace, and some margin for helping each other, because we're humans and things don't go perfectly. All right. Have those conversations and you will be on your way.